We're on the next episode today with our guest, Darjan. Darjan is a founder, and today we're going to talk a little bit about SEO and PPC. So once again, welcome, Darjan.
Thanks, Butrint. Thank you for having me. It's a joy to talk to you.
Thank you. So once again, here it is, Darjan. Darjan is a founder of Mission Driven Marketing and marketing agency that helps different businesses. But today we're going to talk a little bit about SEO and PPC exclusively, because a lot of people are wondering if we need to switch from SEO or using PPC as well. So Darjan needs to answer all these questions once and for all for all these people that have this kind of question. So Darjan, let's talk a little bit about the main differences on SEO. So what do you think the strategy is where each fits in digital marketing? It's like SEO versus PPC, like directly. How do you see them?
Well, look, thanks again for having me. It's really a pleasure to talk to you. And this is like one of my favorite topics, and I love to nerd about it a lot. And especially within what we do as mission driven marketing, which is lead generation. We help a lot of businesses to get leads, which is a little bit different than e-commerce and sales, kind of a different thing. If we can talk about it later a little bit. I don't like to put SEO versus PPC. I think they are actually complementary and they should be partners. Because if you look at the marketing as a more holistic approach, not just focusing on a certain tactic or like specific individual tactic, SEO and PPC are the best buddies. Obviously, that makes them rivals. Of course, it's like a sibling rivalry
because they split the budget.
Exactly. You can't prove the results that quickly with SEO, but you can mess up very quickly with PPC as well. So that's I would say one of the biggest differences. But like in very sort of plain terms, they're like different tools for different jobs, right? If you are a CMO in a company or an owner of a business, you want to think about your marketing beyond just, hey, how much money can I make tomorrow? You want to think about how much money I can make in 10 years down the line. You do need both, because PPC is going to validate a lot of stuff very quickly because you can see results within a matter of days or weeks. But you also need SEO to build that long-term foundation. You need to build that long-term visibility. That essentially means those channels are complementary. They should not be excluded from the strategy for one reason or another. And I've seen that happening a lot of times, and it's never good when you exclude one strategy over another. It's best when they're complementary.
Yeah, that makes sense. But when do you think SEO is better? So do you think for long-term growth, like when you try to build authority, ranking organically, or what's your intake in here?
Look, there's two approaches for that from my experience and what we do at Mission Driven. So one is what you just mentioned, which is like long-term efficiency, long-term visibility, brand visibility, and growth, which is extremely important for businesses that do think long-term. Obviously, if you start a company, you're not gonna just work for 1 year and shut it down and move on to do something else unless you are scaling that super fast. So if you want to really be recognized within the industry or within a certain target audience or a group, then you need SEO tactics. You need brand authority. You need to build that organic visibility. You need to bring that credibility that ads simply don't have that capacity to do over especially a long-term perspective. But it's also extremely important for local businesses. So if you are a business that's oriented to a local service, for example, you are a plumber or a small construction company that operates on a certain geographical area, local SEO is your best friend. I would even argue that sometimes it's a better performing channel than Google Ads and PPC or stuff like that. You well optimized Google Business Profile, local citations, good reviews are sort of a really, really good engine for small businesses to be visible, especially if they don't have large budgets to compete against competitors on the PPC side. So I think that's kind of where SEO really has that big advantage over PPC. And also, if your company has a runway, if it has a budget to really grow steadily, not super fast, but to grow steadily, to make sure that everything that you do actually will compound eventually after a certain period of time, after a couple of months or a year. Again, that's where SEO has a massive advantage over PPC.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. But what about PPC? When do you think people should try to invest in PPC? What's a measurement that you make for specific businesses? So you mentioned when your intention are locally, it's better for SEO. But actually, when you try to go globally for a specific, let's say, SaaS product, when do you think that's PPC is the right choice and has a good return of investment?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I'm going to repeat what I said before. I think PPC and SEO really need to be complementary, so like you should not be excluding them from your strategy. So to everybody who's listening to Butrint and me talking about this stuff, do include both of these things in your strategy and think about them. So especially when you are a new business, when you're just getting started, when you're not really validated on the market yet, and you're just getting off the ground, then PPC is a very good friend to you, because where PPC has advantage over SEO is the speed and the volume, which means that with a reasonably small to medium-sized budget of a couple of hundred or a couple of $1,000, you can actually get a lot of volume of traffic. You can get a big volume of leads. You get a big volume of conversion, so you can understand essentially where your targeting is, what your audience wants to do, how your entire funnel functions, how it works. Are you measuring everything the way you should be? So PPC gets you that result extremely fast. It's also very good for local businesses if they are on a high intent. So, for example, some emergency services, emergency repairs in your neighborhood, you're probably going to rank very well with the combination of PPC and SEO, especially now with local service ads and new tools that we have on Google Ads side. But I think in generally speaking, if you are just getting started, if you want to validate a new market, if you want to experiment with something, SEO definitely does not have the advantage that PPC has, which is the speed and volume. But I think in terms of general strategy, there's no kind of right or wrong approach. There's an approach that actually works a little bit better based on what you want as a business. So if your goal is to get something validated very fast, new product, new service, new market, just getting started, definitely you should get into PPC as your first choice just because of that speed and volume.
So you agree or you protect or you think that PPC serves a purpose in lead generation for small and, let's say, medium businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a ton of experience with PPC lead generation, especially if you are a small to medium-sized business, especially if you are looking for let's say services or something like that, where people are intentionally looking for certain things within their area. So what we need to just I want to roll back a little bit and take a step back and kind of remind us what exactly PPC stands for, and what exactly it means, which is pay per click, which means that you're paying for people to click on your ads and stuff. So PPC is not going to get you on AI visibility and ChatGPT and stuff like that. That's where SEO is doing the trick and the magic. But where PPC is going to get you in front of people that are looking for something that they need right now, and they want to explore your service. So a lot of businesses that we work, especially in the US market, are local to regional businesses that really rely on that local visibility and local presence that is amplified by PPC. Because just to give you one example, with the help of local search or local service ads, we can actually help them rank higher than they would do just by organically, just by doing SEO tactics. So there's a little bit of that complementary analogy that I was referring to before, but also a little bit of boost that you're getting as a small business from PPC, specifically from Google Ads, for example, which are, I think, right now, probably the most interesting channel with everything that's been changing from Google Marketing Live a couple of days ago. They're becoming even more interesting. They were kind of stale for the last couple of years in terms of performance and excitement, but I think we're getting back into really exciting age for search ads.
Yeah, that's very international informational knowledge. So if I want to, because I get this question a lot, and sometimes I don't know how to answer honestly. So a lot of businesses ask me, well, what if I want to invest in PPC? What's your intake on this? How well, let's say we have less than 10,000 of revenue monthly.
Yep.
Is it worth it to invest? Because now we're investing on SEO, we're paying the staff, so basically we're barely surviving. So for a business that is barely surviving, do you think that it's worth considering doing PPC?
Well, it needs to come back to the business goals. All of the stuff we're talking about needs to come back and come from the business goals. So if you are a business that's barely surviving, probably what you need is revenue now. So you need to get some money back in the bank tomorrow, not in a year from now. So
Yesterday would be better.
Yesterday would be, yeah. So yeah, definitely would be good to invest in PPC. I think there's also a specific thing that it's kind of flying under the radar in PPC management, which is the local services ads from Google. What local services ads do for small businesses, especially businesses that are operating within, like, let's say, a certain city or a smaller region, they essentially push you on top of the map listing. So when you're Googling plumbers or HVAC or some kind of repair services near you, you can get that business featured on maps. You can get the calls directly. And that's where we're stepping into a different territory than just PPC, which is pay per lead, because local service ads function as a lead generation tool. So they're not just traffic ones. So you don't need to go to the website. You need to do much on that. You can just call business directly from the ad or send a message or an email, whichever you prefer of those three choices. And if that lead converts, then you pay for it. So then Google charges you for that. So it's a little bit of a useful tool especially for businesses who don't have a lot of budgets, because that's where you set your weekly budget. It doesn't work on a daily or a monthly, so it's not too complicated in terms of management. And you get some results relatively fast from those. But again, this comes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, which is the partnership between SEO and PPC. You still need to have that Google Business Profile well crafted, optimized. It needs to be alive. It needs to be reviews on it. So it needs to exist. You can't just kind of put it out there as an empty shell and hope for the best.
But if we want to put a number or a price to it, so or a revenue matter, when do you think people would consider investing? So when they do have around 10,000 or over 10,000, let's say 15 or over 30,000, what do you think?
Well, look, we're working with businesses from all scales. So even businesses who are making $400,000 to $500,000 on the MRR side, or maybe businesses who make like a couple of thousand. So it's not exactly a sort of question at which point do you start investing. I would say start investing immediately when you start working on stuff, because essentially that's how you're generating results. So if it's worth for you as a business, so let's say you're a small business that doesn't make more than some 10K per month like MRR numbers, and in those terms, I would say, yeah, it's worth investing a small amount. It's worth investing to get some brand traffic, to get some protected traffic so your competitors don't eat you. But I think in that case, when your budget is slightly smaller, you're much better going into social advertising, into like Meta or TikTok or something like that, or even YouTube, because the cost is much lower. The cost per lead, the cost per click is much lower than you would go on traditional search.
Your company like Mission Driven Marketing, they also do like all types of PPC, like social media ads, let's say Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and all kind of Meta ads and as well. Okay, so my question before we jump in a little bit on social media, because I'm also intrigued a little bit while you mention it. So you mentioned branding keywords, and I see that a lot. Also, Google allows it, like they allow to use your brand name for the Google ads. How do you think this is appropriate first, and how do you think people should approach and use this kind of, I think I call it a strategy, because they take your SEO and use it for their PPC as well. So
yeah, that's a very good question. Brand keywords are super important. They're essentially a protection of your brand because unfortunately, there's still, Google still allows not just you to use your own brand keywords, but also allows your competitors to use your brand keywords. I think I remember back in maybe a couple of months ago, even I could still see the ads for, because we're switching between some CRM tools and stuff, but doesn't matter internally. But I've seen, for example, Monday is better than Asana or whatever, because when I was Googling ClickUp or something like that. So yeah, Google still allows you to use branded keywords. That is essentially the protection for your brand, because even though you're essentially paying for people to find you organically, which I know it sounds a little bit counterintuitive. If you already have an SEO strategy in place, if stuff is already working, you're ranking well, why would you be paying for your company to also appear on the search ads? Simply because your competitor will probably eventually do the same thing and try to push itself above you. You got to understand from a position of an average user. You and I understand the architecture of SERP and where stuff is and what is an ad, what is not ad. The average user doesn't care that much, where the ad is on the top of the listing. They don't give a damn about that. So what they want to do is to I'm looking for a marketing agency, an SEO agency. I want to be able to find it. I want to be able to look for the first 3, 5, maybe 7 results, 10 if I'm really super eager to research. And I want to give them a call, and I want to have a quote, and I want to sign a deal within a couple of days or weeks tops. That's what the average business owner should be thinking about. So for them, it's not really relevant whether that's an ad on top or an organic result. So again, just to kind of close off a bit of a longer answer to your question, brand protection is super important, and that's the best way to protect your brand from being cannibalized by other competitors and being essentially stolen that, essentially somebody stealing that traffic from you.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. The way you said it, protectioning your brand. That really makes sense, because a lot of people will steal and people don't care that it's your brand. They're just gonna click the first thing it shows up, or the first prompt that it shows up. So moving forward, when you have an SEO agent, an agency that does marketing, all this kind of stuff, have you ever think of doing marketing for yourself? Because I think this is where we're stuck. We never know when is the time to invest for our own self. So what about you?
I love that question, Matt. So the part of the world where I come from, which is the Balkans, we have this saying, the handyman's house is the worst in the village, right? I think you might have the same thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it is true, man. I've been laughing about that for a very long time, but it is true. After kind of running my business for a couple of years, I still don't know when I'm thinking about my own marketing. It's a little bit different for us because we're getting a lot of clients from referrals and networking and kind of events and stuff. So our website and our social presence is not as relevant. And I hope my team doesn't listen to this right now, and
and they continue doing the work.
Because they're doing the work, yeah. But it's not a primary channel for us. But I think that's a mistake on both my end and probably a bunch of other people who are in the industry, that we don't think about our own web presence, our own socials, our own profiles, and kind of what that looks like. Because look, in a small business, and we are small businesses, right? 9 out of 10 times, you as a company owner, you are the sales channel, you are the face of it, you are the product essentially. It doesn't matter if you have a big team or a small team or whatever, you are the guy who needs to go out there and sell. So yeah, when do we need to start thinking about it? Yesterday, even before our clients. But again, it all goes back to what you want. Why did you start a business? You didn't start a business to run it for a little while and then you call it a day. You started probably a business to run it for a good number of years, or eventually maybe you can make a good sale and exit or something like that, and start whatever your goals are. But you need to think about it. So I know our website is right now under construction notice because we're changing stuff in the background, and we're always changing stuff in the background because it's never finished. But yeah, definitely we need to think about it more.
Yeah, I know Gary Vee, the way he said it. Gary Vee, I love a quote that he has. He says, I'm here to stay, no matter what, I'm here to stay. So that actually makes sense because if you are in the business and you like what you're doing, so what do you want to do? You have to stay and continue and optimize every day from day to day.
Yeah.
So that's crucial, I think, for all. As one of the other things that you said, that if you're in a small business and everything comes from you to you, and then the employees are the one who helps to make the wheel going and so on, because at the end of the day you cannot do everything on your own. But I think on the other side, if you listen to the podcast and as well, they say, okay, if you're doing the whole work, you're not much important. So they it's like controversial because you never know what to do, and you try to optimize, you try to be better version, and then try to work, and then you hear something, they say, if you're working too much, you're not doing a good job, you're failing this and that. So I think it's because there's tons of podcasts out there, it's not so easy for like small businesses as well, when you have to deal with, like you're playing football, you have to cross and then go and use that ball to shoot and so on. So yeah, but as Gary Vee said, we're here to stay, and I think that's best for marketing and also small businesses as well.
Exactly. I agree too. I'm just gonna add like one more thought to that. Like small business doesn't have to be small all the time. One of my favorite companies and guys I like a lot is Apple, and I'm an Apple guy through and through. But the CEO of Apple is still the face of the company. Everybody knows who the CEO of Apple is. Even it doesn't matter if that's Steve Jobs or Tim Cook or now John Turnus from September. So everybody knows who the CEO of Apple is. Everybody knows Elon. Or a bunch of Jeff Bezos or a bunch of other people. So even if you're talking about scale, even if you're talking about like your local plumber versus Jeff Bezos, it still operates on a more or less the same way of them being the face of the company, and they need to be out there, need to be present, need to be publicly visible. It's just a scale that changes, of course, like the level of responsibility, but they still need to be out there and still to be visible in their own way, and they're here to stay. Yeah. I love that quote.
Okay, now we're getting a little bit deep into entrepreneurship. So, and you also have an agency, and in our previous conversation, you mentioned that how to set up a company, what's the best steps. I'm a little bit intrigued what you said, so I would like to hear from you once again. How do you think is best way, like especially from Balkan and these kind of different countries that want to operate? You mentioned that you have an agency that is registered in a different place, and you already are from a different place and live in a different place. So what about this triangle? Do you think it's worth for everybody out there?
Well, look, I have a lot of friends in my life that are kind of international people, and for me, look, it's becoming really normal to move between different places all the time and kind of be everywhere, anywhere, all the time. Right? What's the name of that movie? But if you really want to get started, there's a lot of advice, and I've read a lot of that back in the day. So plan ahead and get your business plans and get your documents and stuff and all of that. I don't necessarily believe that. Look, I'm gonna put myself on a little bit of a spotlight here. I like I'm a very organized guy, and I like my spreadsheets, I like my tools and all the stuff that I need. But I think sometimes when you really want to start a business, when you really want to monetize your knowledge, your expertise, your network, or whatever else you want to do, you need to have a lot of gut, and you need to have that sort of gut feeling that, hey, I need to do this now, and this is what I want to start, and this is what I want to do. And I wrote my business plan last year, first time, and we're operating for the last 5 years. So it's not exactly, I'm not exactly a lesson for that. But in terms of sort of regulatory shape and setup and stuff, I know things in Balkans are getting better in terms of how expensive or complicated it is to set up a company. But I would still kind of urge people, if you want to function the way you and I work, which is with international clients and sort of international setup, try to look for something abroad. I registered my company in Estonia through their fantastic program, e-residency. This is not a sponsored segment, but I hope they
if it's good, the users deserve to know it.
Yes. I hope they hear the shout out, because I'm praising them all the time.
But they can sponsor us. I'm open to that.
Yeah. Estonia is a cool country. It's a very digital country. Like it's one of those places that back in the 90s, like after Soviet occupation, after they became independent, they realized we live in the Baltics. We don't have any like oil, natural resources, food to produce or whatever, and we have pitch dark for half the year and super cold temperatures. So what are we going to do? We're going to make this thing digital. So where they started digitalizing their infrastructure, their government infrastructure and everything back in the 90s, where all of the stuff that you and I are talking about right now was not even a thought. So fast forward, they developed this program called e-residency. You can apply through that relatively easily through their website. Like just Google e-resident Estonia. You can find a website where to register. It costs 120 euros to get a residency card.
120 euros?
120 euros,
Wow.
which is relatively cheap if you compare it to some other places. And then you register your company when you get your little ID card, and that's what you use to sign all the documents, to log into government portals and whatnot. You register a company relatively quickly. I registered mine in June of 2019 on a Friday evening at 6 p.m. I just wanted to see how this works. I plugged it in, I opened it up, and I signed the document. And within, I think, the next 30 minutes, I got an email from a court in Tallinn saying your company is not registered. I was like,
That's so fast.
this is weird.
Extremely
So it
fast
was super
process.
fast.
Looks like spam. Only spam
It
is
is.
fast.
It is. Like, I wasn't sure, but I mean, good luck. I had this thing. I was like logged in with the ID card, so I could verify it. If I just opened my email and saw some court emailing me at 6 p.m. on a Friday, I would probably delete the email and never look back at it. So yeah, that was a super fun experience. And honestly, now after all these years, it's probably it's a good decision. It allowed us to work internationally very easily, to set up the banking, to get all the verifications, all the stuff that we need
So
to operate.
have you ever been to Estonia?
Actually, no.
So
I've never been to.
you never had the
properly,
need,
no.
so you never need.
No, never had a need. Everything we did online. Our banking is through fintech. Every like annual reports and documents and whatnot we need to submit goes through the portal. There's a government accounting software that you can. I think it's free up to a certain level. I don't know exact numbers. Up to a certain level of revenue, it's free, and then you pay like some tiny little monthly subscription. That you can log all of your invoices and receipts and everything, and it automatically sorts that and generates your annual report and taxes and whatever you need to do.
Well,
So it's
what
super,
about the phone number? Do you actually took a phone number from Estonia so people know that
No.
you're based? No.
No.
So no.
no, we go to virtual office, and that's where we operated for the first couple of years, to a virtual office and redirects. And since I live in Italy now, I have an EU phone number, so it's fine. Like at this point, it's fine. I think it's also easy for us because we work a lot with American clients, and American clients are not exactly super interested into all of the
bureaucracy and stuff. Yeah, they just
whatnot.
want
They're like,
the job done.
exactly. Can I pay you quickly and easily? Can you do the job? That's the two main questions that they ask. Only people who ask us where we register are European clients, but I know, I mean, bureaucracy is a thing in Europe, so we need to do that stuff. But yeah, honestly, it's a really good recommendation if you're looking, especially to start. Also because from this year or last year, relatively soon, you don't have to have any founding capital or anything like that. So it's even more convenient, especially for a digital product like SaaS or agency or designer or developer or something like that. It's super easy to set up and work.
Yeah, personal will take a look after the call. So hey, why not to have your business in another location as well that is also verified, and you have legal contracts that you can also prove that. Yeah, that's also a good call from people that are looking forward to set up a new business from international, I would call international waters, even though that's close to a frozen thing. But anyway,
well, this time of the year, I think they're fine.
yeah, I think now they're melting.
No, it's a good thing. I think as an entrepreneur, we often forget how important it is to have that easy way of doing stuff, because why would you be wasting half your day on admin and invoicing and accounting and whatnot? You need to do your job. You need to grow your company. You need to run your business. I joke about that all the time. Like if I wanted to be an accountant, I would have been an accountant. I would not be working in marketing. So if I can just open my dashboard and see what's going on and say, cool, fine, move on. That's what I like. So Estonia is a cool option. I hope a lot of other countries will adopt their models now that we are digitizing. There's a lot of other stuff going on in EU right now. I don't want to go into a policy conversation because it might be boring, but for me, it's very interesting. So a lot of cool stuff is going on in EU right now. Hopefully, these kinds of models from Estonia are going to be adopted by other countries. It's going to be more flexible to do business in Europe because we need that. We need flexibility and speed in Europe. We're very slow compared to US and the Middle East and even
too
parts
bureaucratic,
of Europe.
too
Too bureaucratic, yeah.
It's not helping for any new business. It's not helping any, even for big or huge companies. It's very restricted area. If you want to push a new product, if they want to push a new service, they want to create experiments. Even in this digital AI world that I'm trying to get into this conversation as well. I've seen a lot of things in Germany and Switzerland. They are very hesitant in a way to jump into AI. They care too much of sensitive information. When personally, a lot of Americans, they just don't care. They're risking every data that they have just to create an AI bot that can do the work. And I'm also a fan of that. If you're too I would say grungy and you don't want to, I might lose this data, I might risk. Yeah, if you got to risk it to get a biscuit, man. So you got to do what you got to do. So either you're gonna left behind. You're gonna left behind no matter what. So you have to follow the rhythm.
You know what country fascinates me now with AI and tech development? Ukraine. In the middle of war and everything, Ukraine has developed this government chatbot thing, where it's kind of like governmental ChatGPT basically. So you can log into that with your ID, with your credentials.
One bad prompt and you launch a bomb in.
I think it's more benign than that. You ask them about like tax certificates and birth certificates and whatnot. But it is cool. I just want one more note on that, and then we can move to other stuff. But I like to say what we have a problem in Europe. And like I lived in the Balkans. I live in Italy now. I've moved across Europe a lot of times, and that's kind of been my job before running my business was in an international organization. So like I met a lot of people, and the common thread I see is that we're doing fine. And that's the worst place you can be in life as a government, as a business, as a person. If you're doing fine, then you don't have incentive to do anything. Then you don't have incentive to grow. If you are really, really big and powerful and strong, of course you have an incentive to stay like that or to keep moving forward. If you are very small and weak and poor, you have incentive to grow, to become bigger, to become better. If you are just fine, like, what's your motivation? Like, where's your incentive? And a lot of kind of European way of life boils down to that. Like, we're doing fine. And that's where, for example, countries
like too safe.
Exactly. And that's where Ukraine is fascinating, because right now, in the middle of all of the stuff that's going on over there and war and occupation, they figured out, okay, we have a lot of people who are now living abroad who still need to do stuff with government. They still need their birth certificates. They need their tax returns. They need their insurance or whatever. So we need to have a way for all of those people who are now living someplace else, as like displaced or refugees or just moved for whatever other reason. We need to be in touch with them as a government. Like, they still need those services. So they figure out a way just to do that relatively. There's a lot of other stuff that they're doing, but this is kind of one thing that's really fascinating.
That's really fascinating. But going back to the basics, I think the need is what makes the wheel going. So they do have this specific need. They are under war and they need specific things. They don't have time like different countries because they don't have over things. That's what is pushing them to even produce better services, better this kind of things. Like even the anti-drone system is very, very intrigued to see. So for the first time ever, this kind of thing for the whole highways is anti-drone system. That's very interesting. Like a very basic way, but nobody thought that they can build something like that. But actually, they did it. And what's also intrigued and interesting in the same way is that I personally work with a lot of Ukrainian even before the war internationally, and I think they were one of the top countries with most freelancers all around the globe. And the moment that they stopped work, most of them or few of them, they couldn't work anywhere, or because of the missing electricity or bombing or anything like that. So a lot of countries, especially in Balkan, took that advantage from working abroad. And I think that's in a good and bad way as well, because they cannot work. So actually that tells a little bit about their discipline of work, which it's very well to be copied, and so on. But I wanted to stop a little bit about the marketing as a industry. Personally, I think that marketing shouldn't be like a department. Marketing is everything for a business. If your employee is doing bad marketing, he's hurting your business. It doesn't say, no, I'm not in that department, I'm not going to do this video, I'm not going to do that. But if he ends up doing a very shitty business everywhere else, that's going to come back to your business. So this is where I disagree with a lot of people and say, well, okay, we have a department for marketing, I'm not going to do that. That's not up to me. So I think that's wrong. So what's your opinion in regards to marketing as a whole or marketing as a department?
Oh, I agree with you completely. I think, especially maybe back in the day, maybe sometimes, 50, 60 years ago, you could have that argument that there's just a department of marketing and they do their own thing and it doesn't really matter. But not anymore. Look, let's think about the fact that we're all on social media. Most of us are on social media, right? So if I'm an employee of a company and I'm posting some rubbish on my channels, somebody is going to see that. Somebody who might be
imagine you go viral on that.
Exactly. So, if I go viral goofing around, I mean, I like to goof around, I like my sense of humor, but, and dose it properly. But if you kind of go viral for something extremely rubbish, and like you can damage reputation of your company, of your employer, or your own business, or your own company if you're an owner. So we need to kind of be a little bit more careful. Not in terms of censorship or in terms of like I don't want to put my opinions elsewhere or something like that. I'm just going to be a little bit more careful of that. Somebody's always going to see what you're doing at some point somehow, and that comes back to what you were saying. Marketing is essentially everything. Because look, the way I define marketing is that marketing is about crafting a message that leads to value exchange. So that in its own kind of, if you strip it away from any philosophical meaning, is essentially what companies are doing. There's a value exchange, which is you're selling something, I'm buying something, or vice versa. And there's a message, which is what communicates to me, what is it that I'm buying, what is it that you're selling, what sort of problem are you solving? So I usually say there's 4 elements to marketing you need to know. Somebody who's going to call that 4P, somebody's going to call it something else or whatever. It's like irrelevant how you call it. But you understand your audience, you understand what problem they have, and you understand what your message is, which is like how your product is solving the problem of the audience and where that audience is. So if you understand that, you understand marketing, you understand that, and everything else that we're talking about is just a tactic that's going to help you get there faster. So to bring back to what we talked about at the beginning, like what your question is, I absolutely agree with you. I think it's important to observe marketing holistically as everything that we do in a company, because the service of marketing is essentially to increase the value, right? To strip it down even more. What we do is we bring more qualified leads to our clients. And more qualified leads means better sales. Better sales means more revenue. More revenue means more investment in marketing, in product development, service development, blah, 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 whatever company else is doing. So it is a completely holistic picture. And I think it's a very wrong approach that I've seen a lot of companies slashing marketing budgets first time. If there's a crisis, marketing is the first thing to be slashed, because we don't need that. We're not going to be investing in ads anymore or whatnot. I understand the reasoning where that's coming from, but I think it's better to, if you need to shrink the budgets and kind of go a little bit smaller, but stay active, stay out there, your competitors are going to come at you at any moment in the future if you're right now, for example, going through some crisis. So I think, yeah, marketing is everything. You as a, even if you are an employer that works in some employee that works in some HR department or accounting somewhere in a back room and nobody sees you, you're still a part of a company. You're still a part of the story. You're still out there. Like, you are contributing to something. And I think if you look at it from that holistic perspective, then it's going to be easier to succeed. It's going to be easier to move forward rather than just have there's like, 3 people in the room who are doing their own stuff and nobody talks to them.
Okay, the way you said it, I got another question regarding to firing clients. But before getting there, when we should fire clients, another question would be how agency, like especially marketing agency, should get new clients. Because nobody talks about it. Everybody talks about how B2B or different businesses should use agencies or marketing agencies to get clients. But how do you think that marketing agencies should get clients? What are the best channels?
Oh, look, it really depends. And you're going to hate me now because that's the default answer in marketing when the tough question is like the default. It depends. No, I think for a lot of where a lot of agencies are making a mistake is that they're not showing their expertise. They're not showing. It's not just about results and case studies. You're not showing your expertise. I remember when we were just getting started, one of the first clients that we got, and a really good client because that was a network that opened us to a couple of other clients in the future. We got them through a silly reel that I recorded in my living room next to the bookshelf, and I was explaining what different marketing acronyms are. So I was there talking about CPC, CPM, PPC, like whatever. It's just like I remember which one was, but there was like 4 or 5 different acronyms that I just explained very quickly. And somebody caught up on that, and they reached out and they said, "Oh, you do this? Can we talk?" Blah blah blah. So I think what a lot of agencies are not doing, they're not really showing their expertise. They're not showing what they know how to do because.
But why do you think that is happening? Are they being too generic? They're missing their specialties.
Specialty, yeah. No, I think it's a twice. Like one thing. Look, I personally, this like just coming from my own point of view, like I have a lot of issue with kind of positioning myself as an expert because despite a long time in the industry, I don't consider myself to be some massive brain expert thing, whatever. Maybe I should maybe I should.
Yeah, you should.
Hype myself a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I know how many. There's a paradox of actually knowing what you're talking about because you know how many people are better than you and you know how many people know more than you. So you get a little bit of that.
Still, but that doesn't make you weaker or worse. So no, you're in the same position as well.
Exactly. So I think that could be one of the reasons people might just not think like, okay, maybe I'm not that big of. But look, the problem that a lot of people come to us for, and what problem a lot of clients are talking about, are basic problems. Very rarely you're going to go into a client meeting. You're going to talk about some complicated server-side tracking setup issue, right? You're going to go into the client meeting and you're going to say, okay. Your meta description on the website is bad. Like it doesn't tell what you do, is outdated, or there's like just not enough stuff in there. So a lot of issues the client have are basic issues. So if we keep talking about the essential things, but we talk about essential stuff as a foundational element of marketing. Again, if you do the basics right, none of the tactics, AI stuff, updates, whatever platforms, they're not going to surprise you if you have your baseline covered. So if we talk about baseline, it's a lot easier to relate to people. That's like a paradox of expertise. I think what agencies are also missing is cooperation. We work a lot with partner agencies, and that for us is like on one side is a good source of work and clients because we get outsourced to do a certain job. But it's also extremely important to get relationship with people within the industry who are maybe doing something better and bigger than you, so you can learn from. And we want to learn from our partners because they're probably doing something differently or better than
or faster and the same achievement.
Exactly. So why wouldn't we be sitting in a call and chatting about, hey, how do you organize your client folders and whatnot, like the essential stuff. So those are a couple of things that are a little bit irking me about the industry in general. But I think the best way to get clients is to talk to people directly. You need to be in the rooms. We do have some content on our website. We're going to show it when it comes back alive eventually, hopefully within the next like 2 weeks. So we have some content, we have stuff that we're posting, we have some videos, and we record reels and things. But I think the best kind of connection happens between people when they're talking, either like this in some sort of semi-scripted call, or directly in a room. For us, we got a lot of clients through networking, through just talking to similar people, to other companies, and we were just kind of chatting. Eventually, that chat comes into a point when somebody says, "Hey, I have a problem with this. Do you know how to do that?" And we come back and say, "Oh yeah, we dealt that with another client. Here's how we approach the issue, or here's what I would do." Blah blah blah, and then eventually that turns into a relationship. So be out there, go to events, go where the essence of, again, coming back to your previous question on holistic marketing, the essence of marketing is you need to be where the audience is, right? So go to fairs, go to trade shows, go to conferences, go to expos and things like that. That is always a good place to meet people and get prospects, and talk to people, build relationships. This whole business is about building relationships.
Or if you can go, you can host one and invite others.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that would be cool. Eventually, I would love to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Then my final question would be, how and when do you think you should fire clients? I think that's a tough one to decide, because you're gonna pick and decide to lose money a little bit. But when do you think that is the last choice?
Oh, that's a great question. When it clashes with your values. So we fired a client. I'm going to approach that from two different sides. So we fired a client back in last year, I think, because that they wanted us to do some black hat tactics that we were not comfortable with. Our approach is it's transparent and ethical. We don't own clients' accounts. We don't hold them hostage for stuff. Clients can leave at any moment when they want. I would figuratively, my door is now closed, but figuratively, it's always open. You come in and you go whenever you please. And I think that actually keeps a lot of clients that work with us for a very long time, because they know that there's nothing going to stop them if we don't do a good enough job to leave on their own. So if you fire a client, when they clash with your values. Revenue is always going to come. You're always going to make a sale. You're always going to get another client. And we had a hit at some point where we were kind of really slow and low on revenue, but that grew after a couple of months. But we stood up for our values, so that what we stand for, what we want to be as a company, as a team, and that doubled the revenue, a couple of months down the line. So if it clashes with your values, definitely fire the client. If you cannot help the client, fire them better before they fire you. Sometimes clients don't really understand whether agency is a good fit for them, and they're kind of stuck in that sort of toxic relation, the terrible marriage situation when you're together just because of the kids. I mean, no, kids are not in this relationship, or they're already grown up.
And the kids has to suffer because of this toxic marriage. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
so.
When they are employees, they're gonna suffer, both sides.
Exactly. So yeah, that's one approach, and the sort of approach is also if you're reasonably comfortable with your revenue, with your numbers, with your prospects, and you have a client that is really going against what you stand for, that I would definitely fire them. I think nothing is important as much as your integrity and your credibility and your values. Everything else is gonna come. You're gonna make a sale, right? Eventually, if you're doing this job from your heart, if
you're here to stay, definitely.
Exactly, you're here to stay. So not terrible clients are terrible clients. They're always going to happen. We're very fortunate that we didn't have a lot of bad experiences with our clients. We're very happy with people we work with, and we like to nurture those relationships. So again, stand your ground, stand your values, and success is going to come.
The reason I ask is not that I heard something. Just I wanna explore some different parts that nobody talks about, like how to fire clients. Everybody, we mentioned how to get clients, just for the sake of users as well. We explained that, especially for the SEO agencies, marketing agencies, PPC agencies, how to get clients. Darjan explained us. Just not to stay in that, I always ask my guests how do they see failure, and how do you think people should see failure in their stages of life and entrepreneurship? So, what's your opinion on this?
Look, short-term failure is always terrifying when you fail, when you kind of realize that. I've been there myself. Like, enough times in my life. Well, not enough probably. I'm gonna be there eventually again. It's a normal cycle. But I've been there enough times to learn that it's the most normal thing in the world. Again, coming back to the European mentality, what we were discussing before, it's much more difficult to fail in Europe, especially if you're coming from areas such as Balkans, which is very traditional, very image driven, and if something that you work on
Very
doesn't
brandy.
Exactly. So if you fail, especially if you start something, if you're doing this for the first time and you fail, like, oh, come on, leave that. It's not for you. Never do that again. I think it's the most useful thing that you can do, because failure is just another way to learn. And I think it's the best way to learn, because there is a pain associated with failure, psychological pain, because you think, oh, I'm not good enough. I failed. I didn't manage to do this. But then, when you go through that cycle
And blame and
of emotions and blame, then you start realizing, okay, I could do this better next time. There's a lesson to be learned out of it. So if you approach it from that angle, you're fine. Like, I mean, failure is, again, it's the most normal thing in the world. It's a cliche, but I like that phrasing, that it doesn't matter how many times you fail, it matters how many times you pick yourself up. And we as a company, we started in 2019. We failed in 2020 because of COVID. Then I tried to restart the company again in 22. It didn't work out. Like, all of that time, we were kind of chugging along and doing random small things. And eventually it worked out. So if you really believe in what you do, you're not going to give up. You're going to keep on pushing. Obviously, don't be unreasonable. Don't push yourself over the limit. But keep on pushing, keep on believing, and keep on understanding failure as a lesson, as a sort of learning on the go, essentially. How do you learn all of the stuff in your life that doesn't have a textbook? So fail, pick yourself up, write down your lessons, and remember next time when you get to a similar situation what to do.
Okay. Yeah, so once again, thank you very much, Darjan, for being in this show. I hope people are going to get a lot of information that you shared. Personally, I learned a lot. So once again, thank you very much. And yeah, that's it from my end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure talking to you.